Hello everybody, welcome back to Python 3 tutorial. This is the second part of the tutorial series. Today I'm going to be going over a couple things with you guys. Give you some information about me and my background. For those that don't know, I am the lead programmer for Cybertemple. Check them out on Facebook and see what videos we already have. We also are on YouTube, so go ahead and check us out on there, which both links will be in the description below. So, I am currently a student at Southern New Hampshire University, 28 years old, and like I said, the lead programmer of Cybertemple, and I'm also founder of Fire Husky Studios. I create video games, websites, apps, do computer repair, do custom PC builds, among many other things. And I don't just create games for one system. I create them for all consoles. I create them for PCs, and I also do app and mobile games. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and show you what I'll be talking to you about today. So first we're going to go over some basic math concepts. I know it's kind of boring, but I need to explain a little bit on math in the programming language, because everyone says, oh, we don't use math in our everyday lives. Sadly, you do. Programming is one of those careers where you use a lot of math. Second, we're going to go over Booleans. Booleans are basically a true or false statement. It determines whether a coded statement is true or whether it's false. And they're widely used in loops, which I'll go over in the next video. Next, we're going to go over Boolean Logic using and, or, and not. And basically comes back true if both statements are true, or comes back true if one or the other is true, and not brings back the opposite of what the statement entails. So if the statement is like 2 is equal to 2, which normally would be true, if you use not 2 equals to 2, would be false. After that, we're going to learn a little bit about user input and assigning it to a variable, so collecting data from the user. And then finally, like I said, I'm going to briefly go over the loops in Python. So first off, math in Python. There's many forms of math in Python. You can do addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, along with trigonometry. You could do geometry, among many other forms of math in Python, if coded properly. In addition to doing all this math with 2 or more integer or float variables, which integers are basically whole numbers and float variables are decimal value, so 3.14, stuff like that. But among that, you can also use addition to add 2 strings together. So if we have string A says hello, string B says world, if we print hello plus world, it'll be hello world as one line. Subtraction can be used to also subtract specified characters or groups of characters from a string. So if we were to do, let's see, apple pie, we wanted to get rid of apple. You would do string A, which is apple pie, minus apple. And it would take out the word apple and just leave pie. Multiplication can also be used to print a string X amount of times. So if we wanted to print hello 3 times, we could do that. So, Booleans. Now, the fun fact about Booleans is they only have one value, either true or false. It can never be both. I've discovered that. But the most common time that a Boolean is used is in the use of a while loop. And I'll go over that near the end of the video. But basically, it states, while this statement is true, run the loop. If it's false, break it and move on to the next code. Boolean Logic. Boolean Logic uses the operand and, or, and not. Now there's also symbols that you can use to represent those instead of actually typing it out. But and only outputs true if both the statements are true. Or outputs if either is true, and not outputs true if the first statement is false. And there's an error in my a typo, so my apologies. And also, Boolean logic is not a normal statement. It is a comparative statement. It compares two statements and outputs the result. So, for example, 2 and 2 would output true because both of those are equal. 2 plus 2 and 3 plus 5 would output false because one of those is false and one is true. 8 is greater than 4 or 4 is greater than 8 would output true because one of those statements is true. And 2 is greater than 4, not 8 is greater than 4, would output false. And I actually just realized I have another typo, so I'll provide you guys with an example through my IDE. So, back here on my editor, if we were to do y equals 2 is equal to 2, it would print it would print true. But we have to make sure to print the string so it actually prints out what we need it to. Hit F5, it prints true. Now if we were to do a AND statement, 2 is equal to 2, and let's do 4 is equal to 2 so I can show you what happens when it prints out false. It would print false because both of them are not true. However, if we did 4 is equal to 4 and 2 is equal to 2, you'll see that it prints out true. Now, the OR statement, we'll use the same example as before, as the 4 is equal to 2. So as you can see, this code right here is true, and this one is false. If we use the OR statement, it prints out true because one of them is true. It doesn't have to be both. Okay? Now, the NOT statement. This is where I said I kind of screwed up on the typo part of it. Basically how this works is it's the opposite. So if you were to put y equals not 2 is equal to 2, so 2 is equals to 2 is true. But if we put not before that, it'll output false. And hit F5. So basically, in a nutshell, the NOT statement does the opposite of what the statement is supposed to output. So if the output statement, or the statement that you use is true, and you use not, it'll output false. If the statement is false, and you put not before it, it'll output true. Okay, so back to the slides. Alright, now like I said, loops I'm going to go over very briefly because there's a lot to loops than what this slide entails. But basically, loops are a block of code that repeat itself based on the set conditions. It will continue running until the condition is met and will then move on to the next block. The most common forms of loops are the for loops, which is an item or object-based loop. So for example, if you have a dictionary or a list of items that you're wanting to go through, which I'll also explain those in a later video, the for loops will loop through the dictionary list and do code based on what you want it to do for each item in that list. So for example, if you want to calculate how many times a certain word pops up in that list. If you have a list of apple, cake, apple, pie, apple, and soda, and you want to see how many times apple shows up, you would use for I in that list. So like I said, we'll go over that more in the next video. While loops run while a certain condition is met. So if you wanted to do, like for example, I have a while loop in one of my school code where it says, while X is true, run this amount of code, and then I have an if statement within there that says if this is greater than so and so, return X as true, or else return it as false. And when it returns false, it'll run through again, but it'll stop because of the fact it's not true. Like I said, I'll go more in detail. It's confusing right now, I know, but I wanted to give a general idea of what your guys are going to be looking forward to in the next video. And one slide that I forgot to have on there is user input. User input, basically what you're doing is you're asking the person that using the program that you're using. So let's say you program a calculator, you want to have someone else use it. That person would input their data or numbers, name, whatever that you create the program to do. And it assigns it to a variable in the code. So to give you a little example, let's go ahead and use my personal information. So x equals, we'll put input, because that signifies that you're asking the user for input. And then put in quotation marks, what is your name? And we'll add another one for y equals input, and ask how old are you? And then last time, z equals input, what is your profession? And then at the end of that, we'll go ahead and print each of those. So print x, print y, and print z. So what this is going to do is we're going to be asked what our name is, which will assign it to the variable of x. And then it'll ask us how old we are, which will assign it to y. And then it'll ask what our profession is and assign it to z. So whatever we input is what's going to be assigned to those variables. So if we were to run that, so it asked me how old my name is, I entered it, I'm 28, and then my profession is student, and print it out just like that. So user input is very valuable in the gaming industry because most games nowadays have a chat function, and this is how they would make a chat function, is by asking for input and printing it out to the chat log. Alright, that's it for today. I'm hoping you guys liked the video. And like I said, next video for next week, I'm going to be going over some other topics. Link to the Cyber Temple will be down below. My channel will be linked down below, as well as my game studio will be linked down below. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and keep up to date with the Cyber Temple, and I'll have updates on what the next week's lesson will be. Alright, thank you so much.